this Special Olympics community issue. The video we will talk about the issue that are the lack of coaches and the money in each of the area and regions of the Special Olympics will have. The issues in the Special Olympics that affects the community is the lack of coaches and the money to provide the resources to the athletes' equipment and uniforms for each sport they do in their area and regions. In each area and region, it is their responsibility to provide matching uniforms, equipment, busing, for meets outside an hour's drive, entry fees for each athlete, and other incentives/event costs. These costs are excruciating and requires funding from the government, federal and state, along with regional and local supporters. The state gives each area an equal stipend from the general funds to help with the costs. However, in larger/denser areas, this stipend barely helps. There are scholarships for areas for new equipment or jerseys every couple of years. Local fundraising is already necessary to make enough to host area teams. If the federal funding disappears to the state funding level, these programs may become obsolete or heavily reduced in each community. The other threat to the Special Olympics is a lack of volunteers, and primarily the coaches. The whole organization happens because of the gracious volunteers who devote time to events and at practices, coaching our athletes. Each area has a designated number of volunteers and coaches needed to make a sport happen, or the sport will be skipped for the season. In a larger community, more volunteers are accessible and available. However, in smaller communities, the weight of the volunteering falls on the few standing, and the majority who have coached for years are aging out of volunteerism. To be a coach, training is needed in the season prior to the event season. It requires time, preparation, and lots of paperwork to ensure all athletes are accounted for, eligible, and registered. Throughout the season, stats updates are needed to be submitted for at least 2 regional games prior to states. The coaches are responsible for working with other areas for matchups to qualify for the regional. Then, after making it to the states, all the paperwork, roster, and qualifying paperwork needs to be submitted by the deadlines to still qualify. There is a lot of paperwork to keep track of, and it is very time-consuming. Most of the coaches are parents of an athlete, so only well-supported coaches can really make the commitment. The rest of the parents just volunteer as a Class A volunteers to make the required numbers. So the Special Olympics is not the only athletic program for individuals with intellectual disabilities. The saturation of the other programs has caused federal funding, local support, and volunteers to be spread thin. Especially because the parents try to have their athlete in as much as they can to have a sense of community, consistency, and familiarity. So, essentially, they may be the same group of volunteers who do one of each program. In this interview, we will be talking about the lack of coaches that will impact athletes. And the person that I am interviewing is Coach Ken, that he said in his email kind of interview.
Hi, my name is Coach Ken. Each year we are moving up through divisions as they become more competitive, and soccer becomes a big sport for our tiny little town. We are the mouse that roared, and everyone who has been a part of our teams should be very proud of our athletes. But here is the hard part. As some of you know, Kelly and I have grandbabies in Virginia, and we do not want to leave our athletes without soccer when they have taken home gold and silver medals the last 2 years. And even before COVID, this team has medaled every year we have coached. To be clear, it is not even about the medals, but those medals demonstrate the accomplishments that give our athletes pride, joy, and a camaraderie that extends into other sports. I believe our soccer team has lifted all our competitive sports, as the strong relationships between our athletes carries into every aspect of their lives. I hope that for my own son as well. It breaks my heart to think of leaving the athletes I have come to love, but it also breaks my heart every time my daughter sends pictures from afar of the babies who barely know me or Kelly. Megan stepped forward to get her coaching credentials last year, but we really should have 2 coaches. I feel like I have placed us at risk when Kelly and I coached as a married couple, and now we would both potentially leave. I can say when I coached basketball for Special Olympics in Ward Lake, we had 4 teams with 2 coaches and an assistant for each. and 3 of our 4 teams took gold at regionals and went on to state, including David's team. How cool was that? So my challenge is that Walled Lake did not think having a coach was even a question. We had 2 coaches plus an assistant coach who was getting certified. Can we do that for Lake Orion? Why are we at risk? Because Kelly and I may move to Virginia. You may not know, but I am certified for athletics. And leading up to COVID, our athletics coaches were married and wanting to step down. What are we leaving at risk? Though I was certified at athletics, I felt pressured at the time. But I think I understand more now, and maybe I'm a little ashamed about how I felt. I will send an invitation to our athletes for spring soccer this weekend, which is like a no-commitment / let's just have fun thing we do every spring. Soccer season is in the late summer, so it is just for fun, and the tournament is toward the end of September. So in the spring, just come and play with us. You do not have to be certified, and honestly, Kelly and I will carry our certifications for the team to go to the tournaments this fall. So there is not much of an obligation or commitment. Just have fun and play with us. I know I am piggybacking on Cheryl's thread, but imagine if our athletes did not have soccer next year because Kelly and I moved to Virginia. That would be sad, to me, even if we hid it from our athletes by trying not to mention it. As special needs parents, I know we do that sometimes. I do still, and sometimes it is the best we can do. Some athletes would notice. Brandon and Brandon. Yes, as coaches we see double sometimes. Sean, Lucas, Claire, Jessica, Mackenzie, Emily, Rachel, Tom, so many. True story. My David might not notice, but as a special needs parent, that is hardly what I consider our first option. That he gets isolated simply because I don't have a program for him to stay engaged. I am already struggling with what to do about Christy's babies in Virginia and my son here in Clarkston. And I do not have an answer, and can use your prayers. The last thing I want is for anyone to feel pressured. But that will be the situation if we don't prepare this year. Also consider, I want as much time for any new coaches to experience our soccer team while Kelly and I are still here. So any transition is as smooth as possible. I think it happens that parents end up coaching their kids. When I was going through my struggles in 2021 and I stepped away from coaching, I am grateful they were there, but they also left as soon as I was able to return. It makes me sad, but I think we all understand. And I know you have expressed love and gratitude toward Kelly and me. So if we move to Virginia, will soccer keep going, or can anybody come and play with us this year? And maybe get certified so this keeps going? Please, please, please don't feel pressured. If something moves in your heart, just come to spring soccer and play with us as a volunteer. It costs nothing to take the classes Cheryl sent us below, but it does take some time to do a few online trainings. Megan can tell you it isn't too much.
In conclusion of the summary, the Special Olympics needs more community support through volunteerism and funding in each community to make it accessible for everyone who wants to participate. To make this happen, the area coordinators and directors should be pleading with every business within their boundaries to advertise the details with sign-up links for volunteers, coaches, and donation links for direct funding and sponsorship information for the annual events. That way, the community is informed and can participate as they can. Here are some resources that I have for you that where to go to help and more. Like in Special Olympics websites, there is the Special Olympics. Become a coach, become a volunteer, and donations and more. Also like in social media, there are ways to find Special Olympics on Facebook /Instagram /Snapchat /YouTube /X, Twitter /LinkedIn, and also the areas have different names for their area on social media. As like in the sponsors, there are so many different types of sponsors like Tim Hortons, the Coca-Cola Company, Topgolf, and more. So like in the donations are their way to earn money for so many things that we do in our Special Olympics community. Thank you for watching the Community Issues Special Olympics episode. Hope you like what we talked about and what you have learned from this video. And I would like for you to come back to see more content from my channel that is called at Dolya Taylor 6848.